This next panel is going to look at superfans. There's been lots of talk about superfans over the last 2 days. We're going to dig into this from a global south or from outside the global north standpoint anyway. So we will be looking at insights from key global markets on this subject. So I'd like to welcome 𝘕𝘂𝘵𝘭𝘥𝘮𝘢, who is joining us from, well, he's going to represent something of the Venezuelan side of this subject. So Jose is actually joining us from London, where he works in a consulting firm in the music industry called Fourth Pillar. He's an senior account manager there. And Fourth Pillar is a corporate and financial communications agency working solely in the music industry. But we're really going to look more now at how we can look from outside the global West into growth in music. And so, Jose, I invite you and the panel to come up and share your thoughts.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our panel about superfan engagement through technology. Thank you, 𝘕𝘂𝘵 for the opportunity to be part of this panel. And there are two things that are very exciting about this panel. First of all, we are talking about one of the most discussed and evolving topics in the music industry right now, which is superfan engagement and monetization. But the second one is that we are going to focus on the global south, those emerging markets that usually have low GDP, but huge populations, and they are the ones driving the business right now when everything is digital and there's better access to internet and to technologies in these countries. It's not a coincidence that we have global acts like Ed Sheeran or Coldplay touring in India, or that Lady Gaga and Madonna are breaking records with their free concerts in Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. This is more than live concerts. These are strategies to attract a global fan base. And in order to talk about this, we have a very multicultural panel, as you can see from the flags behind us. And I'm going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves very quickly. Ariana, let's start with you.
Hi, 𝘕𝘂𝘵. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Ariana Arciniega. I'm from Mexico. I am the Executive Vice President of Global Operations and Business Strategy for Intercept Music, a distribution company from Palo Alto. And I recently held the position of Head of Business Development also for Latin America at Virgin Music Group.
Hi, I'm Simon from Round. I'm CEO at Round. We are a music marketing and tech company. We work with labels, artists, managers to help their music succeed on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, mostly through creating content and working with influencers.
Hello, I'm Luke Mendoza, co-founder and CSO of BeatChain. We are a music tech platform that delivers distribution and marketing platforms to emerging markets. So our major customer in India is Radio City, and I'm sure we'll be talking to Rouché a lot after the panel.
Yeah, hi again, guys. Yes, Rouché Shukla here. I head the creative marketing for Believe, and largely as a part of my role, it's about really building the next superstars, the regional superstars in the country, and driving our own pride in terms of the languages and exporting them to the Indian diaspora markets. So yeah.
So before we start with the discussion, there's something that we learned yesterday, and it's the fact that there are many definitions of superfans, and there's different criteria to define superfans. And for this panel in particular, we want to use the definition from Luminate Data, so I'm going to read it. According to them, a superfan is defined as a music listener who engages with an artist or their content in at least 5 different ways. And I like this definition because it makes us think, you know, in which ways we interact with our favorite artists. And yes, live concerts are still important. Yes, the physical format is still important. People are still buying CDs and vinyls. But I'm pretty sure that if you think of the most frequent ways in which you interact with your favorite artists, they are happening in the online sector, whether it is that you are following their social media, interacting with them, liking or commenting their posts, or if you are just listening to them on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. And so I guess the question is, in this digital fragmented environment, how we identify the superfans, how we engage with them and keep them engaged, and how do we monetize them without exploiting them for the benefit of the artist and for the benefit of the fan as well, and for the sustainability of the industry. And I want to start with discussion with you, Simon, because you work at Round, which is a digital marketing agency. So everything that you do is online. It's in the online, whether it's UGC or other online platforms. You have been working with an impressive amount of clients, and some of them are very well known. You have done campaigns for Olivia Rodrigo, Beyoncé, Ed Sheeran, Shakira, and we're going to be talking about her later, and also record labels and management teams. How important are superfans when you are planning your strategies for your clients? And also, are your clients aware of the existence of the superfans, or is it more you that have to educate them about the importance of them?
Yeah, it's they're massively important. I think that's the biggest change we've seen in the last 18 months in terms of what clients are asking from us. It used to be, in the context of influencers and platforms like TikTok, campaigns were oriented around reach, so get us as many views as possible, find us the influencers that get the most views as possible, and that's really changed to find us superfans, find us the people who will create the most relevant and authentic content. Clients aren't really looking at views as much anymore. They're looking at the comment sections. You know, has what this influencer put out, are people discussing the artist underneath? It's less about, you know, oh, they made a piece of content that is featuring the song. It's actually, they made a piece of content where they're talking about the artist. And that's kind of, in our scope, what a superfan would be doing. It's also influenced the kind of tools that we're building now internally. It's geared more around superfan intelligence. And then, yeah, whether they understand the value, I think conceptually, yes, it's really obvious. You know, when you say that there's a person making content about your artist, talking about your artist, that is hugely valuable. But in a kind of more literal sense, I don't think they understand how to value it. You know, like I said, when we were working with influencers based on reach, it's a case of you pay somebody based on how many views they can get. Now that we're not looking at that, it's kind of hard to work out what the value of a superfan is in monetary terms, whether you actually remunerate them in monetary terms. You know, would they prefer gig tickets or merchandise, or also is that worse because they're kind of working for free in that sense? So that's the confusing bit for clients, and the bit that we're kind of like trying to work out.
And Rouché, how does it work for you? Because you have been working in music marketing for a while. How do you see now this change towards, you know, digital streaming and this concept of superfans? Is it changing the way you do music marketing?
Yeah, sure. So I love what Simon said. Like, especially comment section is like one of the most beautiful places to see what's happening in real time. It's like all the goss sitting with the popcorn, right? But then it's also a lot of learning. So listening to fans is the #1 thing here. As a marketeer, we always tell the artist, our own roster artists, to look at their own sort of comment section and see what's happening there. And the track that I just spoke to you about, Shaky, is actually getting majority comments in YouTube from Africa. And the reason for that is because there is an Afro-pop ingestion in there in terms of the sound when you hear it. And for us, that's like the best thing to do, is because for us, that's the immediate next is to open our market there and find a collaboration, if that makes sense, and getting the cross-collaboration happening. Second point, I would love to emphasize on the fact that doing something for the fans and giving back to them goes a long way. In my career in the previous organization, I used to work with Love, the American singer-songwriter, and we built it from scratch. But on one fine day, we got him for a Lollapalooza performance in Mumbai, and before that, just prior to that, we opened up the cards for like 20 superfans. And those 20 superfans are actually going to be streaming your music for like, 1,000 times more than your 1,000 superfans, or 1,000 general fans. They literally went above and beyond, and spread across everywhere else about him in the country, and overall reach was 50 million for us on socials, just as us. That was a big learning for us to start doing many listening sessions, hosting parties, getting fans and spreading the word only with an RSVP, limited 1-hour link, And those things really are working well. Thirdly, I just want to close on saying the tech world calls it A/B testing. We call the same A/B testing for our own tracks. When we pick up soundtracks or we have various versions, we have those multiple versions that artists are always confused about. Final 1, final 2, final 3. You have all of those versions floating in, but we do a lot of A/B testing by asking the fans, what do you like? And this goes also a long way when we ask them about the artwork, for example. If they make the choice, then they are in better control of what's going to come on the socials. And I think that's working out well for us. So listening to fans, hosting superfan events, and then obviously the A/B testing.
Yeah, and when we're talking about digital channels, obviously they have opened up the opportunity for many artists to come to the stage and to record their songs and distribute their music and connect with fans. But the problem, we have a challenge with that, which is the challenge of data fragmentation. We have multiple platforms and apps, and they all have their own set of data. So, Luke, based on your experience with BeatChain, is it possible to solve this issue of data fragmentation through technology?
To a point, and I think that's the major challenge we always see, is that there's so much data around, and some of it is incredibly valuable. But it's how you aggregate it in the whole and how you compare it and how you learn from it that's really valuable. There are still so many platforms which silo off their data or only give you so much access to it. At BeatChain and with Radio City on their platform Moves Like Disco, or in Ghana with Afrosonic, what we're seeing is the initial data that we can capture for any new artist or any independent artist of kind of any size is a really great starting point to trying to work out where your fan base really is and what they really look like. So we spend a lot of time taking data from as many different sources as we can, whether we use our sound charts or Chartmetric integration on top of the work that we built in-house, on top of getting artists to OAuth in to their Meta platforms or to their YouTube or to X or even TikTok now, though their API is a bit behind in terms of what you can get out the other end. What we're trying to do is get all of that data into one place to aggregate as much as we can. And we start really simply by overlaying the data of, say, your top Spotify listenership with, which obviously if you distribute through one of our platforms, we get more data, but just on the top level, we can see your top 20 cities, 25 cities. And then if we overlay that with where your fans are from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it might be, we literally just start by putting that on a map. So any artist of any size can begin by just saying, okay, what does my fan base roughly look like? What does my digital footprint roughly look like? And then we start to drill in, and we've built some technology that allows them to see how their content is performing compared to other artists of a similar size to them in a similar genre. So that rather than saying, like, we're working with mainly independent artists and small, brand new artists. If they're coming on and putting their track out and they're trying to compare their data to Ed Sheeran or Shakira or whoever it might be, it's not practical. They don't really know what that fan base is looking like. So we spent a lot of time working out how we can build these sets of data where we are comparing apples with apples, artists of a similar size with their peer group. And what we're finding is that is immediately leading artists to start realizing that their fan base isn't always the same shape they think it's going to be. And exactly what Rouché was saying, what we're seeing in India with our biggest user base is that you get these huge pockets of like regional followership, which is amazing. And that's definitely where they're building that super fandom from. But they're also picking up fans in Africa, in the UK, in Canada we see a lot, obviously, as you'd expect. And what I think has been surprising to them is it doesn't take long for the algorithms and the black boxes to start suggesting their music, because it's in certain peer groups, outside of that region. And we're starting to see that more and more and more. And I think the challenge of data aggregation is actually not so much does the data exist, but how can we make it useful for them? And that's really what we've been trying to solve.
Perfect. And Ariana, we are so glad to have you on the panel because you can bring the record label perspective. You have been in the business for more than a decade, and one of your most recent jobs was as head of business development and label strategy at Virgin Music Group for Latin America. And we've seen in the past year, the CEOs of Warner Music and Universal Music talking about superfans as part of their strategy. And I guess my question is, how important it is from the record label perspective. For example, when you are planning the launch of a single or an album, are you thinking, or record labels are thinking about superfans?
Yes, I do believe they're thinking about superfans. I also believe that it has to be a balance between the artist's stage, where the stage of their career, and the different end goals for the different for the different products. And as we were mentioning, I think still in Latin America there's always this, the artist is always craving to reach new audiences. So it's also a work there that we have to do to let them know that superfans are going to be more engaged in the long term, of course. And also, at the end of the day, our contracts have different buckets of monetization. As you mentioned, we have merch, we have physical. Certain artists' vinyls are, super important for their strategy. So yes, we need to be thinking about the superfan and the data to reach to the superfan in order to have healthy economies, right? For the artists and for us, and to make the P&L work. And if we want to avoid those hit and misses, we need to use this data in the best way possible. And we're always talking about a product that is like the deluxe version of an album, or like Roger was talking about, right? Like if there's a song that people are really liking, we can, have them participate to know that if they want to have the collaboration of this song with some DJ, for example. But I also think data can help you have some more like interactive, or like more not uncomfortable, let's say, meet and greets. I've been in like some uncomfortable meet and greets, to be honest. So I think if you get it, like if you're able to use this information in your favor, it will be better for everyone to connect, which at the end of the day is what you want to have with the superfans, and obviously cater to their needs in order to have, again, healthier economies.
Okay, let's move now to the emerging markets. So according to Goldman Sachs, 75% of all the new net subscribers to streaming platforms by 2035, so in 10 years, will be coming from emerging markets. I'm not going to deal too much with the numbers and data from India, because already, Roger, you have covered that. But Roger, you work for Believe, and one of the things that they say on the website is that they are focused on developing local artists in their local communities first. And this resonates a lot with the idea of globalization, which is this phenomenon that is happening right now, where local artists are reaching the top of the charts in their local within the local markets, but using global streaming platforms like Spotify, for example. And you have a very interesting case study with Believe, with this series called Mismatch, which is a Netflix series. And you were working on the campaign for the soundtrack, and you got #1 with the lead track on Spotify India's top 50. But most importantly, multiple songs from the soundtrack broke into Spotify's global viral 50 chart within just 3 weeks. So how was this campaign? If you can quickly explain, what you did there, and also what was the role of superfans in this campaign?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jose. It ties in extremely well with the superfan as a subject, and I think this case study is epitome of it. As you rightly said, to your point #1 about Believe, that's what we, in two simple sentences, that's how we explain it in India. It's by the local, for the local. That's it. We want to build our own local stars, and I think we are extremely aggressive about it. Talking about Netflix and the Mismatch Season 3 series, again, a huge turn of events and a big tipping point, because never ever have a web series soundtrack broken into the global charts on Spotify. And a huge part of this is a credit to the superfans here. And let me break this down into very simple 3 things that we do. First of all, we really are catering to the fandom here. I have a little problem with the fandom as a word, because it's overused and underutilized in a lot of ways. But I would like to call this fandom into 3 different parts. When we do something on ground, which is exactly what we did, we felt and we realized that in today's time, the Gen Zs, or call it the festival goers, are no longer falling for just the FOMOs of getting a free ticket to the festival. That's not enough for them. Yeah, obviously people will turn up to show up on their stories that they were there, but what else can you give them so that it gets conversion? And I think conversion is a big part of it. We did a specific 200 superfan RSVP event, and the whole idea was about three things. Getting the StarCast in front of them, making them listen to the music, and number three, we had kept all of the iPads and everywhere for them to listen to the music even before it was launched. That did three things for us. One, fan reacts. Let me call it fan reacts because we instantly got the reaction of who's reacting to what songs from the track. Secondly, fan experience. Nothing can better than a fan experience than the artists themselves coming in from their own mouths about why they are building their sound. Or for a StarCast coming in and saying, this is the sound which will be picturized in a love sequence or a fight sequence, and etc. And the third was about the fan engagement. What we saw after that night, in the next 24 hours, 4 of the songs went viral on Reels, and it instantly took off. And after 2 days, we dropped the album. People were hungry of it. And instantly we saw the track was reaching #1 by the end of the month of December that we are talking about. This has really been a big learning for it. In fact, Bollywood has been doing this for a while, where they would always break into a PR, big PR into like dropping an album soundtrack with the StarCast. But I think why can't we stay and do it with a music artist or a web series? And I think that's something for us to like take inspiration and do it, and it went a long way.
Okay. And look, in your case with 𝘞𝘪, you have focused a lot on emerging markets and particularly India. And you launched last year an app called Muser Disco in partnership with the biggest radio network in India, which is Radio City India. So what can you tell us about it, and how is it helping Indian independent artists to connect with their audiences, with their fans?
Yeah, and building on what Rouget was saying in his excellent keynote, what I don't think we were ready for when we started working with Radio City was how fast India's moving. The scale of it, which it seems silly, but it's absolutely mind-blowing all the time. But also you have to remember that, I mean, emerging markets, it's only emerging for us in the West, really. You know, UK, US, and Central Europe might look at it and say, oh, it's an emerging market. But India's music market is incredibly well developed, and there is already consolidation happening, which has really changed the way that artists can interact with their user bases. And what we realized very early on is that without a partner like Radio City, we would never really be able to deliver tech that would be valuable to Indian artists. And by that I mean, it's fine to have a distribution or marketing platform or wherever it might be, and you can skin it and say, this is now for India or West Africa or South Africa or Mexico, but without actual cultural touch points, understanding the political situation, understanding how artists are actually developing their brands, it's not going to work, it's not going to land, and they're not going to be able to use it. India is a protected currency. So something like 83% of all Indians now can use UPI. So without UPI, it's very, very difficult to take payments from that Indian middle class that we saw growing incredibly fast.
I think it would be good for you to explain a bit of UPI, because I think it's very, very, very India thing.
Yes, so UPI is like the equivalent of an Apple wallet, or PayPal or Stripe, whatever the other equivalent is. We use Razorpay, who is our partner, who allows us to offer a payment gateway, not only to receive the funds, but once the mechanical royalties come in, or any other revenue that comes in through our platform, they can be paid straight back out to their accounts. And that sounds really simple, but the bureaucracy in the Indian government system is incredibly complicated. You need to set up a proper entity, you need to get PAN numbers, you need to have an office. We had to fly our CEO out for 1 day to stand outside our office in Mumbai, in Bombay.
Verification.
Yeah, for a photo to prove that we were really there and it is something we wanted to do. And so what we found is that once we had the right partner and we started going, it changed completely the way that our technology worked with that emerging market. Yeah. So what we see in our user base in the UK and the US and the way that artists behave on the platform is completely different. In India, we're seeing people come in, start distribution, get to the end and then go, okay, well, actually, let me look at my data. Let me see what's happening. Where are my fans actually coming in? And then we're seeing more of them actually start digital campaigns on our ad buying tool before they've done distribution with us on their existing content, because they're actually saying, okay, well, actually, I want to spend my limited budget improving the lifespan of a piece of content I've already done, or trying to reach more audiences in a specific area or of a specific fan base that I care about. And that for us was completely eye-opening, because we were like, okay, not only are they very mature and they know what they want to do, which is, we had no idea how sophisticated it would be, but they very, very quickly understood what the tech could do and how they could use it. And I think what we're finding, Radio City are a phenomenal partner, and their ability to have local language support, actually work with artists at any level and try and encourage them to do it is showing that the way that these artists in emerging markets, as we call it, are coming through is much, much more sophisticated than we anticipated. And their growth rate, both within their market and externally, is much faster than you would think it would be possible to be. So it's an exciting time for it.
That's an interesting takeaway, especially with all these Western companies that want to expand to developing markets. It's important to have that regional partner that will actually help you with those things.
Absolutely.
And let's move now very quickly to the other side of the world, which is Latin America, which is a market that is thriving when it comes to music. I have some numbers. So according to the International Federation Phonographic Industry, Brazil and Mexico, we saw it in the presentation from 𝘠𝘓, are now among the world's top recorded music markets in 2024. It's the first time for Mexico to be part of the top 10. But what I found most interesting is when we analyze the streaming volume, the streaming market, Mexico and Brazil are placed third and fourth globally, and they are surpassed by USA and India, as we said before. The revenue for the streaming market in the region last year was 22.5% increase, and it's the 15th consecutive year of growth in the region. So Ariana, based on your experience, because you're based in Mexico, but you have worked for the whole Latin American region, based on your experience, when did you start to notice this shift in the perception or in the popularity of the Latin American music in the global music scene? And do you think that technology has something to do with that?
Yes, definitely technology has something, like a great deal to do with that. And, this happened before, but we saw it with, massive artists, no? The Ricky Martin situation happened, Shakira as well. But what is happening right now, and, why technology is so important right now, is the fact that streaming became a new revenue source that we didn't have before. So this new revenue bucket is making it way more accessible, probably the most accessible that has ever been from any independent artist or label, to record music, to produce music. So this is definitely amazing, and that's why I think you're gonna, keep seeing more of us, for sure. And then, by the way, the moment that I saw it, probably we could say Despacito, no? Yeah, we could talk a little bit about Despacito. I mean, there's always something going on before that, but yeah, I think Despacito is part of that. And Leila Cobo from Billboard has a really interesting book about it, so if you want to go for it, Leila Cobo. But anyway, so yes, we're in this moment. The fact that it's more accessible than ever to record this music. Also, I'm seeing how these artists want to have their own studios and their own labels. You can see with Peso Pluma, he has Double P Records, and he's recording his friends, he's releasing new music, they're being the A&Rs. So they have a lot of control, and I think that's amazing. And then on the other hand, I mean, we always need to take into consideration, and that's why the numbers are there, that we're avid consumers. Yeah. But we're also very, very open. We're able to consume music from everywhere. But it definitely also needs, there's this bridge that we have with the US, obviously. So when something touches the US and it explodes, then it comes back to us, which is super, super interesting. And I have the example of regional Mexican music. Regional Mexican had always been important in Mexico. It was my first sign. I mean, it's always something that is gonna give you, a solid economy for a distribution company or a label. But then in 2023, with the hit Ella Baila Sola from Eslabón Armado and Peso Pluma, Eslabón Armado, they are from California. They're Mexican Americans from California. And Peso Pluma comes from the rap scene in Guadalajara, Jalisco. I'm also from there. Anyway, so, you know, Eslabón made this song, this incredible song. They had Peso Pluma to put, you know, the Mexican feeling as well. The song obviously have all of the nostalgic that the brothers from Eslabón Armado had from, you know, listening to the music that their parents were playing. This is really, you know, intense. You know, I like the fact that it's really, it's a true connection with the roots, right? So that happened, but the point is it exploded in the US, right? So because it exploded there, then it came back. And as we mentioned before, I mean, the diaspora is something insane, right? We're spread around the world. And now I'm talking about Latins, you know, we're spread everywhere around the world. And also I have one example regarding Brazil. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I was theorizing with a friend from Brazil, so it's just a theory, but he was saying to me how Bad Bunny never actually charted before in Brazil, because I mean, the same, you know, Brazilians have always auto-consumed themselves, that's something that they always had, but they didn't actually consume music in Spanish. It was more, you know, they had this openness, or like this bridge to the Anglo music, as we do in Mexico and Colombia and other countries. So when Bad Bunny, you know, with this last album, which is amazing, it has an amazing storytelling, exploded in the US, like, you know, like the final moment, it's like that music used this bridge, so imagine the bridge, right? So it used this bridge to go to Brazil, and now they took it as something that has like already exploded in the US, right?
It's validating the success.
Exactly. It's kind of validating, you know, even though, you know, we're all friends, but what I'm saying is like that's kind of like a theory that why it's charting now in Brazil and the other albums weren't, right? Okay. So that's an idea. And finally, I do want to speak about the fact that we, in Latin America, we tend to have lots and lots of collaboration amongst us. You know, if a song happened to be a hit, if a reggaeton song from República Dominicana is a hit, then, you know, another reggaeton artist from Chile is gonna be like, hey, I wanna be part of the remix, and the Mexican one, yeah, I wanna be part of the remix as well. And why don't we bring the producer from Colombia? Yeah, let's all have fun. That happens all the time, and it's chilling, you know, the fact that we are so open to that, and also why we love to reach to new audiences, right? So, yeah, I think those are key factors as well.
And finally, Simon, we can't talk about Latin America ignoring what you have done, you know, with Latin American artists, Spanish-speaking artists, when it comes to digital campaigns. And in particular, we wanted to talk about this digital campaign that you did for Shakira for the release of her single Soltera, which is a song in Spanish, but it was a global campaign. And you had this combination of social media engagement, UGC, CRM data, impressive results. We're talking about 450 million views on TikTok and Instagram, more than 5,000 pieces of fan-created content, and 250K new fans added to her CRM. So can you walk us through this campaign?
Yeah, we gave away a Lambo for Shakira. So basically, this was a campaign run by our team in Medellin. I'm Colombian myself as well, so my mum was very happy with this one. Shakira, one of the biggest artists on the world, on the planet, and she also has one of the largest CRM databases, so list of fans' emails, contact details, that sort of thing. But the problem was that was split across 5 or 6 different platforms. So Sony's database, Shakira's own one, 3 or 4 other social media platforms, and they wanted to get it all in one place. And yeah, in effect, it was also just a list of people's names and email addresses. They didn't know who those people were, who the actual mega fans in there were, you know, are there any influencers in there, that sort of thing. So Shakira procured a Lambo, and the idea was that we would give that away in return for people creating content with Soltera in it. So could be anything that they wanted, it just had to use the song. And we built a platform where they could supply the content, they could upload it to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and we collected demographic data, social media handles, and yeah, I think it ran over 2 weeks. Every day Shakira would pick her favorite content along with her friends, and that would become a shortlist, and at the end of that shortlist, she picked her overall favorite one. overall, we sent out, I think, like 1 million emails to the existing CRM. An extra 250,000 people entered as well. And it was really interesting to see, the amount of people in there who are already creators, the ones who are willing to create content, and also the ones who are willing to go the extra mile. So there was a guy who made like a portrait of Shakira from 1,000 Rubik's Cubes, who was already in the CRM. They just had no idea. And I think the guy that won it overall in the end, he only had about 20,000 followers on Instagram. He made this amazing video animating a Lamborghini with his mum in it, coincidentally. And yeah, he won it. And it was really interesting to see. He was already in that CRM database already. So that value already existed, it just wasn't visible. And now it's all in one place. We have a greater understanding of who those people are and the ones that are willing to show up for Shakira as well. And it was, overall considered a success.
Perfect. Don't know if we have time for questions from the audience. If not, I have a small question for them. Okay, so a final question, and this is for whoever wants to answer it. It could be 2 words or 1 sentence. What excites you most about the future of superfan engagement monetization, the future of this, and the role of technology in shaping this? Whoever wants to answer this. Luke.
Oh, God.
Luke is ready.
Yeah, I do think the most exciting thing that we're seeing is that the amount of incredible tech that we've not just seen here, but generally in the music industry, a lot of it can work together. And that's really important. And by bringing lots of different things together, and actually something you just said is really interesting, one of the major challenges we face in India, with the first 15,000 signups we had their email as the initial thing. No one replies to emails in India. They have no interest in it. What is happening? And then we started asking for WhatsApp numbers. Over 80% of the signups gave us their WhatsApp, and the interaction rate is through the roof. And what we found actually was from a tech company came to us and said, "Are you struggling to talk to these people?" And we said yes. And they said, "Try this," and it worked. And what I'm really excited about is I think there are so many amazing tools now that are coming together that have APIs that can program together, that can work with whether it's digital advertising or breakout artists or new markets, that we are now in a world where it is more possible to build real fan engagement and more possible for any artist who is talented and wants to work hard to build a fan base that's really valuable.
Yeah, the importance of collaboration in the industry. Well, thank you very much for attending this panel and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, everyone.